2024 NFL Draft is Thursday, and you can hear every Commanders pick live here on the Team 980 and the free Odyssey app. We, of course, will be in Detroit for the first round. Make sure that you're subscribed to the Team 980 on Instagram as well. Be posting some behind-the-scenes content, doing some vlogging, etc. Yeah, we're vlogging, Ant. What you got on that?
I have nothing.
Okay, that's fine.
jealous.
You don't have to do it. You get to consume
I'm
it.
jealous.
Why are you jealous?
Because you guys are going to be out there having a lot of fun.
It's really just me. I mean, B. Mitch is going to be out there, too.
Yeah.
I don't think
But
B.
I'll be
Mitch
in
is
here.
going to be doing
I'm going
the
to be vlogging from the studio.
We can get some Ant behind-the-scenes footage in the vlog. This is Craig on a screen in Detroit.
Yeah.
Woo! Anyway, 301-230-0980 is the phone number. There's just so much noise. There's so much stuff out there right now, and there just seems to be a disconnect with people who are so sure that one of three people is the pick at number 2. Really, it's that the sureness comes from one of two people, May and Daniels, and then there's, I think, a large group of people, and I will say this is a large group of us because I am in this group, who look at it and be like, I kind of think JJ is the right pick. But you're scared because he makes the least sense on paper. You look at Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner, the guy with the most there's two tiers, right, of things that you're looking at. You want production and potential. And on the max end of one is Jaden Daniels. He's got production. Heisman Trophy winner, 40 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions, ran for 3,000 yards in his career. Dude's got production out the wazoo. On the other side, you got potential, and Drake May is a built-in-a-lab, 6'4", 225 pound, really strong arm, runs a 4.5, son of a coach, still kind of raw, is a prospect, but already really good. You got that, and then I'm I don't know, in the middle somewhere, there's that McCarthy fella who's really young and has got a really good arm and runs pretty well. He's not quite as big, doesn't have nearly as much production, but they also played in a offense where he didn't have to. So maybe that's the guy. I don't know, Ant.
I mean, I think the disconnect amongst media members is more so based on what your preference is, to be honest. So, Drake May, he's been drawing a lot of parallels to Josh Allen. Jaden Daniels has been drawing parallels to Lamar Jackson with, better
both of
arm
which are incorrect parallels, by the way. maybe they're
in terms of potential.
They're certainly not parallel lines. I'll put it that way.
Well, not parallel comparisons, I guess.
No, I know they're drawing parallels. It's funny because we do that, and then it's is Caleb Williams Patrick Mahomes or is he Kyler Murray? Because some of the attributes that people describe about him could be used to describe about either guy.
Yeah.
Is Jaden Daniels, is he Robert or is he Lamar or is he Daniel Jones?
I think it's more so at their peak. These are the best quarterbacks in our game right now. So I think that's more so what they're
for sure. And that's the thing is people are oh, they always give the best version, and it's well, what if he's not the best version?
Yeah.
What does he wind up as? What's his floor?
Yeah.
It's pretty important. And also people they're talking about one part Jaden Daniels to RG3 is a good comparison if you want body type and body type only. They're completely different players. Robert was an elite straight arm. Here's the difference, right? Robert was an elite straight line runner, truly elite, Olympic caliber sprinter. Jaden Daniels is not that, although he's really fast. Really fast. But if you line up Lamar, Robert, and Jaden Daniels to run 100, Robert beats both of them. If you now make it an S run where you have to swivel around some cones, Lamar's your guy, right? Jaden's somewhere in the middle. Robert's oh, God, got to turn. That wasn't his thing. He was a straight line guy. Robert had a cannon for an arm. Robert, you ever seen Santana's finger that's jacked up?
Nah.
Oh, he's got a jacked up finger. It's Robert's fault.
Ooh.
Yeah. Robert had a cannon. Jaden doesn't. Jaden's got a good arm and throws with a quick release and great anticipation, but the power, the pop is not what Robert was. But yeah, they're both skinny and kind of tall. And so that's what people do. All right, now we got a bunch of phone calls. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Again, don't forget, Dan Orlovsky joining us at 6 o'clock. Tell your friends, be here, 6 p.m. If you can't be, Hoffman Show podcast or on demand on YouTube. Let's go to Kurt in District Heights. Kurt, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show. Get us started.
Hey, how you doing, Craig?
I'm good, bro.
I think you said it best, man. And just ignore the noise, and just me personally, I'm gonna go with my original thought, which was Jaden Daniels. The more I think about these other quarterbacks, the more intrigued I get, and then it starts kind of wearing on me a little bit. So I'm like, I'm tired of the back and forth and the wondering and all that. I'm just saying, ignore all the noise and stick with the original plan for me, okay, which would be Jaden Daniels. Now, of course, I'm going to go with, whatever Adam Peters goes with.
Right, like when we say, it's our original choice, like, what does that matter? We're not making the pick,
Exactly. But one thing I want to say about Robert Griffin, though, exactly what you said, except another thing about Robert is that he did not have peripheral vision. He was a straight line runner without peripheral vision. That's why he ran into so many brick walls. At least Jaden Daniel does have a little wiggle in his run game, and he can see, he has that peripheral vision. He
Totally.
can see what's around him.
Totally.
Yeah,
Jaden is a better runner than Robert. Not a better sprinter, but like as a football player, which is the thing that they're getting hired for here, he is definitely a better runner. It's a great point.
Yeah, another comparison real quick. I think with Drake May, I would compare him more with Justin Herbert. I don't think he's going to ever be as big and strong as Josh Allen.
Well, for sure. And he's not as big as Herbert either.
Yeah.
Like Herbert's 6'6", 230. Like Drake is 6'4", 225. Kurt, we got a bunch of calls, but appreciate yours as always. But then the question is like, okay, well, if he's Herbert, one, do you want Herbert? They just paid him a bunch of money. There hasn't been a lot of playoff production. But like that's the other thing too. The physical prototype is different than the mental prototype. And the mental side is where a quarterback becomes a lead or not. There's a bunch of dudes running around with strong arms. A guy that I bring up all the time when we have these discussions, whose name I'm now forgetting. He played for the Commanders for a hot second. He started one game during the COVID year. He went to SMU. I keep wanting to say it's Blaine Gabbert, but it's not Blaine Gabbert. Garrett Gilbert. Gilbert, not Gabbert. Garrett Gilbert was a super high recruit out of the Dallas area, out of Texas, when I was working down there. And then he wound up going to Texas and then transferred to SMU. And, like, that dude could freaking throw a ball through a wall. Just had an absolute hose for an arm. And he's big and he's strong. Like, walking off the bus, Garrett Gilbert was central casting good NFL quarterback. And he was undrafted or maybe a 7th-round pick, and the only games he ever really started were like emergency situations and like the Washington COVID game on the Tuesday or whatever that was in 2021 because he wasn't that good at playing the position. All due respect. Like, there are plenty of guys who fit the prototype physically. What can you do mentally? And that's where like the Drake May stuff I think is really interesting because Drake is an athlete. He's creative. He's a playmaker. He's still pretty raw and like hasn't been playing quarterback as long as some of these other guys. So it seems like there should be a lot of upward trajectory, but he also is good right now on a lot of that mental stuff where he did like a lot of calling of protections and stuff at the line. Like he handles quite a bit. The reports out of UNC in terms of his character really high. And so there's a lot to like there. But then you watch the tape sometimes and you're like, yeah, but how often are you going to put it together that we're going to play a winning football here? Because in college, it was not as often as you'd like. And this is why it's a silly projection game. 301-230-0980. We got a whole bunch of calls lined up. We're going to start blowing through them next. Let's get things going for this half hour with Greg. Greg, thanks for holding. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Craig. Thanks for taking my call, man.
You got it.
I think I can alleviate some of the anxiety that we all as Redskin fans are feeling a little bit as this draft approaches.
Okay.
I think Jaden Daniels is going to be the pick.
I don't think you're wrong, but continue.
I think he's the safe pick, Craig. When you think about him being obviously the most experienced, based on his college performance last year, he was the most explosive, most dynamic. Reports have come out that he has a great work ethic. Obviously, we know what he did with the VR. He's personable. He's humble. You get that across in any interview or anytime you see him speak. The boy's competitive. He's got the dog mentality, which sometimes he's got to draw back from, so he doesn't take those big hits. But he's game, right? He's scary to defenses, right? Makes you have to game plan for his running ability.
For sure.
And I just think when you look at the other two quarterbacks at the top, they don't check all of those boxes. And I think that being as though, and I know some people don't care about this, but I do think the Redskin brass does, as far as galvanizing this fan base, bringing our Redskin, former Redskin, top fan base in the league.
I'm just going to tell you right now, Greg, you're really lucky that my soundboard isn't working. Otherwise, I'd be hitting you with the Doug Williams. We are the Commanders right now. I'm trying frantically to get the board up. And if you have it, you got to hit him with it. He's used the old nickname like 7 times in this phone call. That's not the name. You don't have it. It's not the current name of the football team. It's not the point, but I'm letting you know that you have not been interrupted right now by Doug Williams because I cannot get the stupid soundboard to launch. But continue on your point.
I love Doug, but I'm so thankful.
Fair enough. Continue on your good football points.
Yes. So we've got a lot of guys on one-year contracts, as you've seen with our free agent signings. So it's obvious that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and the organization are really geared to try to win as many games as they can next year. So I think you go with the safe bet, the one that most of the prognosticators, most of the experts, most of the mock drafters, the ones that's kind of the top of the totem pole, are saying Jaden Daniels is the consensus number 2. And they've kind of been saying this ever since the combine. So that's why I say it's the safe pick. Because we don't want to we don't want to give this fan base a heart attack by drafting somebody that's not been projected as number 2.
Well, that's the thing, though. So here's the thing, Greg. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. You make everything you said about Jaden Daniels is correct. It does leave some stuff out, which is he is safe, but there's a couple of red flags with him. That one is the frame. Quarterbacks at his size typically don't succeed in the NFL. They're too light. And whether it's durability or how quickly you can be brought down or whatever the reason, like that hasn't been a formula for long-term success. That's thing one. And two, like he has, when you look at the numbers over the middle of the field, which is a big part of a lot of quarterbacks evaluations, like he doesn't grade as high as, and doesn't seem to on film see the middle of the field as well as Drake May and J.J. McCarthy. And when you have 2 first-round receivers on the outside at LSU, that's not that big of a problem because you just keep throwing the ball to the outside and you never have to read the congestion that is the middle of the field that's even more congested in the NFL. That said, because of the way he plays and some of the defenses that are going to have to be called against him because of his running ability, and because of who the talent is here in D.C., where you have Dotson and McLaurin on the outside, and you feel like you can win out there a lot, and Cliff Kingsbury has thrown outside the numbers quite a bit historically, maybe none of that actually matters. And like this is the conundrum, right? There are certain things that a lot of teams look for that Jaden Daniels is the best at. There's a lot more that Drake May is the best at. And then there, if you want to tell me like, hey, who's the guy that looks most like the NFL, and when you watch his tape, it's J.J. McCarthy. And so, like, this is the conundrum. So I hear you on the safe part. The one thing I will push back on Greg's call is I don't think, not that they don't care if they win games this year, but the one-year contracts were, hey, let's keep maximum long-term flexibility here. Not, hey, we are trying to load up for 1 year. Like, they needed players to play. They needed guys to set the tone. Some of those guys cost money, and some of them are veterans. But that doesn't mean that long-term they're not looking to draft replacements. Like, I would not be surprised if they take in the second or certainly in the third round Junior Colson or Edrin Cooper or one of these linebackers to be their linebacker of the future to replace Bobby Wagner. Like, Wagner might be here for a year. It might be a really important year of mentorship, but it might only be a year. 301-230-0980. Let's go to Kelly. Kelly, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Hoffman, thanks so much, man. Hey, I'm just going to start out with just a list of names here real quick. Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin, Ryan Tannehill, Brandon Whedon, Brock Osweiler, Russell Wilson, Nick Foles, and Kirk Cousins. That's the 2012 draft of quarterbacks in a row. And what that tells me, you can look at all the drafts of the quarterbacks from that, the entire last 20 years of the NFL. And to answer your question at the outset of the set, the reason why there's such a disparity between who thinks Jaden Daniels should be drafted, who thinks Drake May should go above him, is because people don't really know. And there's so many variables that go into whether or not a rookie quarterback is successful. It's beyond his raw talent and his ability to grow, the team he goes to, when he goes to that team, and the system that's around him, and whether it can magnify his strengths and minimize his weaknesses. And so if you look at that draft, what you can say about this draft is that one of those guys is going to be a starter for their team. Of the top 5 quarterbacks, the chances are one of them is going to be a starter for their team 5 or 6 years out, 5 to 10 years out. One is going to be a starter for another team at the same level, 5 to 10 years out. One might be a backup, and the rest are going to be out of the league or bust or kind of, journeyman. That's really kind of what's at. And so I think what the commander brass is like, hey, by the time we get our team set after 2 or 3 more drafts, including this draft, who's the one that is most likely to be able to stick for the next 5 years after that, 8 years out? Because you really don't know. So I think
Kelly, you're that like if you want to be a sports talk radio host, like we can have Anthony cut up that take you just gave, and that can be your audition tape. Because you're right. Yeah, I mean it's a great point, and I'm glad you brought up that 12 class because it's a perfect example of this. Really appreciate the call. There are so many factors. Because, even, and if we talk about what is success versus what is failure, was Robert Griffin III a successful NFL quarterback?
By whose measures?
That's what I'm asking, right? Is some people would die on the hill of yes, and some people would die on the hill of no. I would tell you no. If I have the number 2 overall pick, I want that guy to be leading my team to playoff appearances for the better part of a decade. That's what I want out of that number 2 pick. And so while Robert, undoubtedly one of the most successful rookie seasons ever, rookie of the year, he electrified the city. There was a lot. Really, Robert Griffin III was a good NFL quarterback for 7 games. That's not what you're looking for with the number 2 overall pick. You want him 70 games, 100 games, 200 games. That's what you're looking for. I mean, I guess 170 games would be 10 years worth, right? That's what I want out of my number 2 overall pick. And so the idea that we're thinking about right now is silly because this team's not ready to win right now. But at the same time, maybe if they got great quarterback play, they would be. You got to, these are the things that people weigh. And this is why I think Alec Lewis said this, Charles Davis has talked about this with us over the past week. There's so many people that agree with this sentiment that in sports in general, the best thing you can have, the biggest competitive advantage you can have is an owner with long-term thinking. Because Josh Harris is not going to go and fire Adam Peters or Dan Quinn almost no matter how much how this year goes. I guess, if they go 0-17 and Quinn looks totally inept, then he's probably in trouble. And Peters would probably be in some level of trouble because he's the guy who hired Quinn. But Josh Harris was involved in all those decisions. So he would be I missed too. And something would have to go super sideways. It's not going to happen, right? So I think that long-termism where no one is afraid for their jobs the way they have been in, Carolina, allows you to act in a way where you truly do what you think is best for the franchise. And that raises your ceiling as opposed to the short-termism that most owners have where it's can we get a spark next year? Can we get fans in the stands? You get fans in the stands for generations, you'll win. Like big win. Not like, oh, we got a couple of hot weeks and our quarterback's running around exciting. And by the way, running around doesn't mean that's a shot at Jaden Daniels, because Drake May is going to do a lot of running around as a rookie. It just is the reality of kind of the situation here. Let's go to Antoine. Antoine, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Craig, it's good to hear from you and Ant. I think the bigger issue here, and I'm going to, if you can allow me a little latitude to elaborate,
Sure.
is that everyone wants to get it right, but they want to be right, but they don't want the team to get it right. It's more important that just like what we went through with that Ben Johnson nonsense, everybody wants to be, I had Ben Johnson. If it's not Ben Johnson, then it's wrong. My thing is, my preference is Jaden, but I just want the team to get it right. And that's all that matters to me. I think a lot of people are basing Drake May, and I'm sorry, I just don't believe him. I think a lot of people are basing their choice of Drake May off potential, his potential to possibly be Justin Herbert. Well, let's look at Justin Herbert for 1 second. How many playoff games has Justin Herbert won?
I believe it's 0. It should be 1, and then they blew that game against Jacksonville, which was not good, Antoine. Not good.
That's correct. And what are people are saying? Most people are saying that Jaden Daniels is a similar or a typical, prototypical Lamar Jackson. How many playoff games did he won?
Lamar's, not good. But also, like, I would say I disagree with that comparison, but continue.
Well, when you look at what they had as weapons, you really can't, because Justin had Keenan, Mike Williams, Palmer. He had several. I mean, and
I'm saying the Jaden Lamar thing, I just, like, because they're good runners, they get compared, but they're different types of runners, and they're also very different types of throwers and passers. So, like,
right.
I think a lot of the comparison games, I think you'll actually agree with this, Antoine. Sorry to interject real quick, because I think you're making good points, but, like, I think the comparison game gets very silly because, as I said a little bit earlier in the show, like, yes, physically, there's a lot of comparisons between Herbert and May, but if they're different quarterbacks mentally, like if you tell me that that Drake May has 85 to 90% of Justin Herbert's physical attributes, but is a better processor and a more creative playmaker and a little bit less robotic, that might be the thing that Justin Herbert needs to win a playoff game. And if I'm getting that in Drake May, then sign me up tomorrow, or I guess Thursday.
But the only issue is you're not getting that for Drake May. Drake May can't consistently make 5, 10, and 15-yard passes. And this thing with Jaden, and I'm just going to say from my opinion, about Jaden not throwing over the middle of the field, he doesn't have to. He didn't have to because he had 2 elite receivers on the outside. Now, what people don't realize, if you go back to his ASU days when he only had Johnny Wilson and Ricky Pearsall and a couple other guys, and Mr. IU, mind you, he did throw over the middle of the field, and successfully. But no one wants to go back that far. They just want to be held hostage on what he has this year, put on tape this year. And everyone keeps saying the ceiling. What's the ceiling? He's been ascending every year.
Right.
As a freshman, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. As a sophomore, 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And then in 2021, I think it was 2021, he had 10 and 10. And then after that, last year in 2022, 17 and 3. And then we had this 40 touchdown year this year. He's ascending. So we can't just say that his ceiling is lower than Drake's because we don't really know that. And I think that this team, everyone has to just calm down, relax. And just like I feel whatever they pick, whoever they pick is fine. As long as they don't pick J.J. McCarthy with the second pick overall.
Well, see, that's the thing, Antoine. Like, I would tell you that J.J. McCarthy is not only ascending, but he has the most NFL tape of any of these guys. Like, I don't get the McCarthy thing.
Disagree. I get the McCarthy thing. I disagree with because you can get him later. Logistically,
you definitely cannot get him later. Like, he's going to be a top 5 pick in this draft.
I tell you what, if you trade with New England, you definitely get him. And New England will take your second pick to go up 1 to make sure they get the guy they want. And JJ will
I
be
would
there.
love that. I would love nothing more for them than for them to trade back, get extra capital, and still get McCarthy. That's ideal. I just don't think that's, like, if you're New England, I don't know that you're calling Washington's bluff on that, because I feel like unless you want Jaden, like, why? And also, you're a team that's so far away from winning that adding multiple pieces is probably it. Like, Antoine, I appreciate the call. Like, there's good back and forth there. But that's the thing, is like, some of these, we do this all the time, I feel like, with trades, like in the NBA around the trade deadline. Oh, why don't they trade, the Wizards trade Tyus Jones to so-and-so for a first-round pick? Because the other team doesn't want to. Because this isn't, Madden with, or NBA 2K with override trade on. It's not even the PFF mock draft simulator where I can hit force trade when we're doing our mocks. This is real life with real general managers. And this is why this time of year, the information gathering is as important as anything. It's so essential for Adam Peters to understand what New England wants to do. It's so important for him to understand how aggressive Minnesota or Las Vegas is and what they might be willing to give up to come up. And if they want to flip space with like the ideal situation is you trade back twice and then trade up. Like, you want to talk about I can have a dream draft because I've got McCarthy, Daniels, and May all in the same tier. And I don't know. There's something about JJ that I really like. I think the leadership and the mentality, like, you want to talk about being a people-first organization, I think Jaden hits a lot of those notes, but I think McCarthy's special in that way. And so if you tell me I can convince Las Vegas to give up something insane or New England to give up something insane for Drake, because I think Minnesota really likes Drake, let's say. So it's like, hey, you guys want Drake? You're going to have to come get him. Okay? We got 11-23. We got your first next year. We got a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I'm sitting at 11. I can trade up, or if I can get to 3 first, and New England takes their guy, say they take Drake, right? Now, can I get Las Vegas to come up and take Jaden because that's their guy? And then get back to 4 with some of that extra draft ammo and go take McCarthy. Like, that would be sweet. But the chances that you're going to be able to be that patient, I feel like, are slim to none. It's just going to be really hard to have that all work out in your favor, which is why ultimately I've given up on this dream a long time ago that pick, whichever guy it is that you want, just take him. And I do think one of the things that I really like is if Peters thinks it's McCarthy, he's going to have the latitude to do that. It's not going to be an owner being like, nope, everyone else thinks this. And that stuff happens in the league. Why would you do that? Everyone else says this. You can't be, you're wrong. Pick between these two. Everyone else says it's this. They're going to pick the guy they think is best. And to go back to where we started the hour, it's Monday, draft is Thursday, and realistically, I don't think anybody knows who that is.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.